We're finally connected,
Hi, good to see you again.
and you too. Hope you've been well.
Yes, I have. How about you?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Yep, show
Yeah.
up every day.
Nice. I see a nice guitar in the background. What kind of
Uh,
guitar is that?
it's a nice guitar, but I don't play very nicely.
Oh,
I keep trying though.
nice.
You?
Yes, I'm a guitarist and I play piano and cello as
Okay.
well. A little bit of banjo. Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, if you master one, sometimes you can master others.
I'm not sure I've mastered any, but
Oh, I'm sure you
yeah.
have. Anyway, that's good to see you. And I took your picture and bio off an earlier interview we did, so I'm all set on that.
Okay, good.
And I'm ready to rock and roll here and recording it. And
Sure.
okay, and I introduce you in the script. Elissa, the state has accepted a federal grant of $50 million to build almost 1,500 affordable housing units, or some of them anyway. And the governor has said, we're getting contracts out, we're putting shovels in the ground, we're creating affordable housing in a program that has never been conceived of before. Well, what's your take on the whole program?
Well, we're facing an unprecedented housing crisis in the Granite State, particularly in the rental market. What I think some people don't realize is that we have seen um, that we were headed towards a shortage of rental units way back in the mid 2000s. As retirees were making different choices and downsizing, as millennials were waiting longer to buy their first home, um, uh, they're simply and as more people resisted or couldn't secure mortgages to buy their first home, the rental market became very crowded, and it simply could not put up with the demands by that New Hampshire residents needed and wanted, and in terms of the demands of our business community and wanting to grow its workforce. So the American Rescue Plan offered an unprecedented influx of federal resources, and decisions had to be made on how to distribute those resources. And we were really pleased when Governor Sununu put forward $100 million Invest New Hampshire plan to address the affordable housing shortage. Of the $100 million, $50 million was set aside for a capital grant program to deal with capital needs for projects that were already in the pipeline, but were dealing with barriers to completion. And inflation had definitely impacted many of those projects.
But the other $50 million isn't going to building, is it?
Well, 10 million of it also is going to production. There's also funding to address impacts that municipalities would be facing in taking on more rental and affordable housing units, as well as some resources for planning and zoning reform and additional resources to deal with demolition needs.
Hmm.
It was a really comprehensive package that was put forward, and we were really pleased to see the Executive Council and the Joint Fiscal Committee, uh, uh, vote that through. And we were pleased to see Executive Council on November 2nd approve the capital grants projects.
What kind of impact does 1,472 units make on the housing shortage?
Well, the big picture, the data analyses that have been done suggest that New Hampshire is short 20,000 units. And perhaps it's frustrating. Those of us who work in housing understand that it took us a while to get into this, and it will take us, significant resources and efforts to get out of it. But every little bit helps. And
Mm.
what's promising about these units coming online is that they can serve as proof of concept. So for those in New Hampshire towns who are concerned about keeping their rural landscape or addressing the impacts. We know that every community where we've seen these types of projects go in are generally embraced because as people, when they want to hire retail workers for their store, or hospitality staff for their tourism, or recruit a new engineer or a new project management lead, they know they need places for people to live. Also, when their own children decide that they can't stay in the state because they can't find housing or they can't afford to stay here, we know people tend to change their minds. And we are able now to bring these multifamily projects into communities and keep rural landscapes and keep, make sure historic preservation and land conservation are priorities. So I think that you have to start somewhere. And so this is an excellent start. And also, we know that this program was oversubscribed. So we know that we had way more applicants than we had resources. And not every project that was ready to go, what we call shovel ready, not every project, actually secured the grant money. So we're hoping that this demonstrates an ongoing need that, the state needs to make sure that we have capital flowing in this direction. Because unfortunately, the market, if left alone, will not build affordable housing.
It's no secret from you or myself about all the help wanted signs that are up all over the place for people wanting workers, oftentimes at lower income levels to earn. And this might help some of those people.
Yeah, I mean, a recent workforce housing project in the city of Portsmouth, I know that the developer presented to the city council a list of the new tenants who are living there and where they work. And it was really heartwarming to hear that most of them were working right downtown Portsmouth for businesses that have been struggling really to find and sustain a workforce. But also, that, how they were contributing to municipal government and to our hospital and our healthcare. That's the thing about housing, is that it really is about sustaining community. And it's just not everyone is going to be able to afford the same type of house that, looks the same way in any given community, nor does it really make sense for, like and a local economy, wouldn't reflect that, like not everybody's going to have the same kind of income and resources. So having a diverse housing stock is important. And it used to be that a lot of New Hampshire communities had that diversity, and somehow by continuing to try to build for the more luxury products and the drive to earn the most income from these real estate transactions, we got away from meeting the needs. And so the truth is, in order to build more affordably, developers need some kind of below market rate capital, and in order to pass along those savings to the residents. And really all of that will come back to community. And I hope that's what the Invest New Hampshire projects will demonstrate.
By seeing you and hearing you, you sound very enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, New Hampshire didn't make any investments on the capital side, on production. And we were way behind the rest of the country. So in the late 80s, when the cost of housing started to really impact communities, all states had started these funds to demonstrate a public-private partnership. So providing below market rate capital grants, whatever you want to call it, to developers, to build more affordably. Almost every state had a dedicated funding source for those programs, but New Hampshire did not. It wasn't until very recently that we now have a dedicated funding source for our affordable housing fund, and that we've made more significant appropriations. But our level of appropriations into the affordable housing fund still are way lower than our other New England states. And so we have a ways to go. And I think by keeping the conversation and the focus around the housing crisis front and center, we will continue to cultivate the political will that's necessary to keep these kind of programs going, so that Invest New Hampshire isn't a one-time shot, and rather we have a longer term commitment to the New Hampshire Affordable Housing Fund.
I'm reading, I should say, that a lot of those units are focused on the Seacoast area or southeastern New Hampshire. I'm wondering why that is. I guess the demand is higher.
Yeah, I can't speak to the award selection process because, we were not part of that. That was
Right.
Business and Economic Affairs, and I'm sure they had, an evaluation system, but there certainly is a major shortage here in the southern part of the state. But I imagine that, I know that every region of our state is facing some kind of housing crisis. And so investments are needed all over. And it's really helpful when we give flexible resources to developers so that they can respond locally. Because as we know, there are different New Hampshires, and say, the needs in the Lakes region might not look like the same needs in the city of Manchester, for example. And so a lot of federal programs are highly regulated and provide important tools, but targeted towards certain populations or residents of certain income levels. The Affordable Housing Fund has a lot of flexibility to it, and it allows local developers to respond to local needs. And so that's why we'll be focused on that in the next legislative session.
I'm seeing, or I should ask you if you're seeing a way to get, I should say, an initiative to get more housing units developed in other parts of the state, which you mentioned they need.
Yes, we will continue to advocate for the New Hampshire Affordable Housing Fund. As we come into 2023, we know that is the budget year in the legislature as we prepare for state fiscal years 24 and 25. And, we hope to be working with our policymakers, many of them newly elected as of last night. And we have a lot of education to do, right? Because we have a lot of new folks serving. And there was a lot of bipartisan and bicameral support for addressing the housing crisis. And obviously we look forward to that engagement process and cultivating ideas, because we know that a lot of candidates in this last election cycle ran on the housing issue, named it as an important problem to solve for their communities. So we really look forward to working with them, and we hope to work with them on solutions for the Affordable Housing Fund that can have more long-term commitments so that more developers become interested in building for our workforce.
We've covered a lot about Invest NH, but did you have anything to add?
Only that it is a start. It's certainly not enough. And I don't think we can just pat ourselves on the back and say, well, we had this, these federal dollars from ARPA and we put them in a good direction. So, let's move on to other issues. Housing is going to take a long-term commitment, and we're going to need additional state and federal dollars to go in this direction.
I'm sure you'll be watching that.
I will indeed. Yeah.
Lovely to see you. And
Yeah, good to see you as well.
we'll talk again, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Take care of yourself, okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye. It was lovely. Start that. Stop that. End meeting. Okay, I'm ending the meeting.